YouTube channel near you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tranquility Talks. But tonight's going to be a very special night because tonight we have a very, very special show. We're going to be discussing the history of remote viewing because I am a remote viewer, and I also do classes during the week on remote viewing as well. Different topics and different types of remote viewing: remote healing, influencing, time travel, advanced viewing, different things that I teach during the week. And tonight you're going to learn the history of remote viewing, but since this is a very special night, you're going to learn not only the history of remote viewing, you are going to learn about remote viewing aliens, ETs, extraterrestrials. In fact, you're going to hear some first-hand stories and see videos on how remote viewing the aliens have gone down. And you have a very special envelope here tonight, and at the end of the show, we're going to open this up and show everybody what this is. I'm going to let you know how you can get one just like this and how you can sign up for my remote viewing classes. And for those who sign up for my classes during this broadcast or after this broadcast, if you let me know that you saw the broadcast, you'll get a discount. So let's dive right into this. I want to say hi to everybody first off. Hi to everybody in the chat room. Hi to my best friend Rachel who's watching. Hope you have a great birthday week and enjoy the show. And everybody, hope you have a wonderful time tonight because this is going to be a fantastic night. The history of remote viewing. What is remote viewing? Just to give everybody a brief overview before we get started. What is it? It's the ability to describe and understand and figure things out without physically being there. Describing a location without being there. Finding where the lost earrings or a cell phone or wallet is without having to search all day for it. Figuring things out. You can also learn. Also, there's remote healing. How to heal, like leukemia, cancer, colds, flus, aches and pains, arthritis. Then there's remote influencing. How to some people call it mind control, but how to silence the mind, how to change one's thought process using influencing. Then there's advanced viewing, which is how to do everything up here in your mind without having to write it all out. I can do that as well. Then there's also remote time travel, which is a new class I just started teaching, remote time travel. And yes, time travel is possible. I know it is. I've experienced it before. It is more than just possible. Think about this. Up there in space, there is no time. Everything is now, which kind of gives you an idea of how time travel works because you're already in the everything. So let's get this started. We're going to talk about the history of remote viewing, and then you're going to see video clips throughout the night, as well as at the end of the show, we're going to do a little bit on remote viewing the aliens, and I'll tell you how you can sign up for my remote viewing classes. And again, hi to everybody in the chat room, and thank you for watching. This is going to be a fantastic show. And if you don't like it, Mr. Ed and Dennis the Menace are on Channel 6. So let's dive right into this. The history of remote viewing. Remote viewing is the practice of seeking impressions about a distant or unseen subject, purportedly sensing with the mind. A remote viewer is expected to give information about an object, event, or person, or location hidden from physical view and separated at some distance. Physicist Russell Turog, who is a famous remote viewer, and Harold Pudoff, researchers at Stanford Research Institute, SRI, are generally credited with coining the term remote viewing to distinguish it from the closely related concept of clairvoyance. According to Turog, the term was first suggested by Ingo Swann in December of 1971. Now you're going to see Ingo Swann in a video clip in a little bit. It's like a 1-minute clip, but he talks about, well, I'll save that for a surprise. Anyways, the term was first suggested to Ingo Swann in December of 1971 during an experiment at the American Society for Physical Research in New York City. Remote viewing experiments have historically lacked proper controls and repeatability. There is no scientific evidence that remote viewing exists, and the topic of remote viewing is generally regarded as I can't pronounce the word. I'm sorry about that, folks. But the idea of remote viewing received renewed attention in the 1990s upon the declassification of documents related to the Stargate project, a $20 million research program, $20 million research program sponsored by the U.S. government that attempted to determine potentially military applicants of psychic phenomena. The program ran from 1975 to 1995 and ended after evaluators concluded that remote viewers consistently failed to produce accurate, intelligent information. Now, some of the more history on remote viewing in the early occult spiritualist literature, remote viewing was known as telekinesis and traveling clairvoyance. Rosemary Gilly described it as seeing remote or hidden objects clairvoyantly with the inner eye, or in alleged out-of-body travel. Now, the study of psychic phenomenon by major scientists started in the mid-19th century. Early researchers included Michael Faraday and Russell Wallace and William Crookes. Their work predominantly involved carrying out focused experiments tests on individuals thought to be psychically gifted. Now, reports were apparently successful and were met with much skepticism from the scientific community. In the 1930s, Ryan expanded the study of paranormal performance into a larger population by using standard experimental protocols with unsettled human subjects. But as with the earlier studies, Ryan was reluctant to publicize this work too early because of the fear of criticism from mainstream scientists. This continuing skepticism, with its consequences for peer review and research funding, ensured that paranormal studies remained a fringe area of scientific exploration. However, by the 1960s, the prevailing attitudes muted some prior hostility. The emergence of what is termed now New Age thinking and the popularity of the human potential movement provoked a mini resistance that renewed public interest in consciousness studies and psychic phenomena. It's also helped to make financial support more available for researchers into such topics. We're going to do a screen share now, everybody, and you're going to see a couple of photos of some of the world's leading experts in remote viewing, because these guys are phenomenal. One of the first photos you're going to see coming up here is Ingo Swann. And if you don't know who Ingo Swann is, he is phenomenal with remote viewing on the moon. He did a whole article about how he remote viewed the moon and what he saw on it. You're actually going to see a video clip of that later on in the show. Let's do a screen share here and show you a little bit here. Let's see. No, shoot, went too far. Okay, we'll bring it back up here. Here we go. This is a photo of Ingo Swann, and he's actually in this photo. He's actually make this bigger for you. In this photo, he's actually discussing how he remote viewed the moon, which you're going to see a video clip of that here shortly. This guy is phenomenal, and you can check out. He's got videos and stuff you can purchase on Amazon Prime and DVDs you can buy on Amazon. He actually has a 2-disc set. There's a 2 DVD set all about remote viewing and even his experiences on remote viewing the moon. So if you ever want to see a couple of good videos, buy those DVDs. They are fantastic. And the next photo is let's see if we bring this up here. This is Lynn Buchanan. Now, if you don't know who Lynn Buchanan is, he is another expert in remote viewing, and he also has videos on Amazon Prime, and you can buy his DVDs as well. And he also teaches remote viewing, and through the International Remote Viewing Association, which is not anything associated with me. I teach my own type of remote viewing, which is fantastic. We'll get into all that in a little bit. Let's get back to the story of how the history of remote viewing has gone down. We'll bring this back up here. One second while I wet my whistle. Okay, so in the 1930s, believe it or not, Ryan expanded the study of paranormal performance into larger population by using standard experimental protocols with unsettled human subjects. But as with earlier studies, Ryan was reluctant to publicize this work too early because of the fear of criticism from mainstream scientists. This concluding skepticism with its consequences for peer review and research funding ensued that the paranormal studies remained a fringe area of scientific exploration. However, by the 1960s, the prevailing attitudes muted some prior hostility. The emergence of what is termed New Age thinking and the popularity of the human potential movement provoked a mini resistance that renewed public interest in consciousness studies and physical phenomena. It also helped to make financial support more available for research into such topics. But in the 1970s, Harold Putoff and Russell Turrell joined the Electronics and Blumering Laboratories at Stanford Research Institute, SRI, now SRI International, where they initiated studies of paranormal that were at first supported with private funding from the Foundation and from the Parapsychology Foundation and the Institute of Nordic Science. In the 1970s, the physicists John Taylor and Gerardo Blanovich tested the psychic Matthew Manning in remote viewing, and the results proved completely unsuccessful. One of the early experiments lauded a proponents as having improved the methodology of remote viewing testing and raising future experimental standards, with criticism in leaking information to the participants by inadvertently leaving clues. Some later experiments had negative results when these clues were eliminated. The viewer's advice in Stargate Project was also so unclear and non-detailed that it has never been used in any intelligent operation. Decline and termination. In the 1990s, the Military Intelligence Board, chaired by Defense Intelligence Agency Chief Harry E. Soyster, appointed Army Colonel William Johnson to manage the remote viewing unit and evaluate its objective usefulness. Funding disappeared in 1994 and the program declined. The project was transferred from DIA to the CIA in 1995. In 1995, the CIA hired the American Institute for Researchers to perform a retrospective evaluation of the results generated by the Stargate project. Reviewers included Ray Him and Jessica Utz. Utz maintained that there has been a statistical significant positive effect, with some subjects scoring 5 to 15% above chance. Hin was argued that Utz's conclusion that ESP had been proven to exist in premature, to say the least. Heeman said that findings had yet to be replicated independently, and that more investigations would be necessary to legitimately claim the existence of paranormal functioning. Based upon the studies, which recommended a higher level of critical research and tighter controls, the CIA terminated the $20 million project in 1995, the Times magazine stated that their full-time psychics were still working on a $50,000 a year budget at Fort Meade, Maryland, which would soon be closed. The AIR report concluded that no usable intelligent data was produced in the program. David Dawson of the American Institute for Research said, "There's no documented evidence it had any value to the intelligent community." Now, Baer's remote viewing program, beginning in the 1970s, the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab carried out extensive research on remote viewing. By 1989, it had concluded that 336 formal trials reported a composite z-scoring of 6.355, with a corresponding p-value of 1.4 times 10. In 1992, critique of these results concluded Hansen, Utz, and Marquardt concluded that the Baer remote viewing program depart from commonly accepted criteria for formal research in science. In fact, they are undoubtedly some of the poorest quality ESP experiments published in many years. The lab reported that none of the stated complaints comprised the Baer experimental protocols or analytical methods, and referred their results to 24. Following Utz's emphasis on replication and Him's challenge on the interlaboratory consistency in the AIR report, Baer concluded several hundred trials to see if they could replicate the SAIC and SRI experiments. They created an analytical and judgment methodology to replace the human judging process criticized in past experiments, and they released a report in 1996. They felt the results of the experiment were consistent with the SRI experiments. Unreliable. However, statistical flaws have been proposed by others in the parapsychology community and within the general scientific community. You're going to see another photos here in just a few seconds. Sorry if I sound a wee bit off. I am fighting off a cold, everybody. So fighting off or fighting on, whatever it is. Okay, let's see here. Screen share. This is a very interesting book. I recommend everybody get. Let me bring this up here. You can find it on eBay. You can find it on Amazon, and you get this book. It'll tell you so much details, like what I'm doing here tonight, but only in more in depth. So let's see. Screen share, and all right. Let's see. Minimize. Here we go. Now this book is called Project Stargate. You can buy this on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or even eBay. Project Stargate, a remote viewing technology, the CIA's files on psychic spying. And it's a great book, so I recommend everybody, if you get a chance to check it out at the library or get your hands on a copy, please do. It's fantastic. You will not be disappointed. Now we're going to go over here and we're going to go to, excuse me. I'm going to show you, stop the screen share for a second. You're going to see a video clip here of Ingo Swann talking about remote viewing, and this is a very interesting clip. You're going to love this, trust me on this. Bring this up here. All right, do a screen share, and here we go. See screen share. You'll see a video clip here. This is an excellent video clip. Let's see here. Share screen. All right. Audio. This is a 1 minute clip, everybody. 1 minute clip of Ingo Swann discussing how he remote viewed the moon, which I think you're going to absolutely love this. So I'll bring this up here and enjoy. All right. That was a great clip there by Ingo Swann. We'll stop sharing. We'll go continue on with our story. Do we have, let's see, do we have any questions in the chat room? Nobody saw. I just was informed that nobody saw the clip. If everybody heard the clip, if you were able to hear it, please put in the chat room that you heard it. So that way I know if I should play it again. Yes, I am familiar with the Monroe Institute. I don't socialize with Monroe. I don't even socialize with the IRVA, the International Remote Viewing Association. I did take a few courses, or a course with IRVA back in the day, but now what I do is I teach and do everything my own style, my own way of remote viewing. What I teach is called link remote viewing. It's a different form of remote viewing that I came up with myself, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But let's continue on with this story, and we'll play the Ingo Swann clip for those who didn't hear it, maybe towards the end of the show when I go into the alien remote viewing section. So we'll continue on here, and hope everybody is enjoying themselves tonight. And if you're not enjoying yourself, like I said, Mr. Ed and Dennis and Minister on Channel 6, you can switch it over. Just joking. But let's get into the more scientific portion of this, because CEM Hansel, who evaluated the remote viewing experiments, or parapsychologists such as Pudov Targ and John B. Bisha and Brenda J. Dunn, noted that there was a lack of controls and precautions were not taken to rule out the possibility of fraud. He concluded the experimental design was inadequately reported and too loosely controlled to serve any useful function. The psychologist Ray Ham said that even if the results from the remote viewing experiments were reproduced under specific conditions, they would still not be a conclusive demonstration of the existence of psychic functioning. He blames this on the reliance on a negative outcome. The claims on ESP are based on the results of experiments not being explained by normal means. He says that the experiments lack a positive theory that guides as to what to control on them, what to ignore, and that parapsychologists have not come close to having a positive theory as of yet. Tim also says that the amount of quality of the experiments on RV are far too low to convince the scientific community to abandon, and its fundamental ideas about casualty times and other principles due to its findings still not being reported successfully under scrutiny. Martin Gardner has written the founding researchers. Harold Pudov was an active Scientologist before his work at the Stanford University, which influenced his research at SRI. In 1970, the Church of Scientology published a notarized letter that Pudov had written while he was conducting research on remote viewing at Stanford. The letter read in part, although critics viewing the system Scientology from the outside may form the impression that Scientology is just another of many educational religion schemes. It is in fact a highly sophisticated and highly technical system, more characteristics of modern corporate planning and applied technology. Among some of the ideas that Puthoff supported regarding remote viewing was claims that in the book Occult Chemistry that two followers of founder of let's see, where was that? Oh yeah, Puthoff supported regarding remote viewing was the claim in the book Occult Chemistry that two followers, Madame Blavatsky and founder of terrestrial, were also to remote view the inner structure of atoms. Michael Shermer investigated remote viewing experiments and discovered a problem with the target selection listed. According to Sherm, with the sketches, only a handful of designs are usually used, such as lines and curves, which could depict any object and be interpreted as a hit. He also written and confirmed and hindsight bias that have occurred in remote viewing experiments. Various skeptic organizations have conducted experiments for remote viewing and other alleged paranormal abilities, with no positive results under properly controlled conditions. Okay, we're going to do another video here, and this is a little bit of a history of remote viewing. Let me see if I can bring that up real quick here. Let's see here. Let me do a okay, where am I at? All right. This is a pretty interesting video clip here. Let me bring this up for everybody to see, and then we will screen share it and play this one. This is a 6-minute video. I think you will love it. I guarantee you'll love it. See here. All right. I'm going to do a screen share here, and everybody will see this video clip. All right, let me get a screen share going here, and all right, here we go. Share screen and share. All right, let's see. All right, we're going to share the screen, and here we go. This guy's name is Mike, and you'll see his name on the screen as it comes up here. He is an expert in remote viewing, and he's going to give you a little details on just what exactly remote viewing is and how it is used. So enjoy this clip.
Remote viewing is a perceptual technique whereby a person can describe places, events, or people that are perceived mentally but separated from the viewer by distance, shielding, and even time. Mm-hmm. It's, if you like, it's a trained intuitive ability.
How is remote viewing used today?
I've been tasked to help locate murderers and to unravel clues that may help towards finding who the murderer may be in a particular case. Within businesses, helping with negotiations, investigations, lost property, insurance scams, missing persons. Yeah. There's quite a long list, but I've been involved with all of those.
And does your work involve sitting in a dark room, say in a police station or something, and sort of conjuring up the image of the crime scene?
No, I sit at home with a cup of coffee at a table, usually cleared of objects that might get in the way. Yeah. And I just focus in on what's called a coordinate, something which is going to help me to find what's called the signal line. Yeah. And then from then, small images appear, a bit like bits of a jigsaw. Mm-hmm. And eventually we draw up information from that. Some of it's sensory, some of it is visual, some of it is impressions, emotional impressions, and basically feelings that are around the actual site itself. And eventually we can come up with enough information that will help to solve the problem or tell us what's actually at that particular site.
Okay. Can you give me an example of a murder case or an insurance case where you've sort of conjured something up which has been helpful?
Yeah, there was a case in America where a man was found overboard from his boat in suspicious circumstances. I can't really say a great deal about it. However, there appeared to be no motive for the murder. And I was tasked from America through a contractor out there who's also a remote viewer. And I was able to ascertain from the pieces that I could do through remote viewing that there was a possibility that actually it was an internal affair. Somebody in the family was actually involved in some way or could be involved in some way. This information was sent back and I gave my reasons for this. And I was eventually told that nothing more about what had actually happened with the case apart from someone within the family had actually been arrested for the murder.
How did the American military use remote viewing?
In the military, it was used for about 18 years within the actual Cold War between Russia and the West, if you like, the East and the West. And mainly to sort of locate intelligence things like silos for missiles, secret sites and things like this. But stuff where no other means could actually be used to get into the site to find out what's there. It was only with the event of the Cold War that we discovered that Russia actually was operating some people who were able to locate information, particularly in the United States. When America found out about it, they thought this actually was quite a good idea. This is a very short view, a very short part of the story, but it sort of brings the basic facts together. And from that, the CIA became involved and funded a military unit, and also some experiments carried out in America by a chap called Hal Puthoff. And he worked in conjunction with a chap called Ingo Swann, who was a very gifted remote viewer who set up the means to train remote viewers at a place called Fort Meade. During a period of 18 to 20 years, there were about 23 remote viewers. And it was eventually disbanded basically by the government when the CIA started to reveal information about remote viewing and what they've been up to in conjunction with Bill Clinton's new disclosure act through Congress, that disclosure of information had to be more freely available to the public.
Do you have any idea of how many remote viewers there are in the world today?
I have no idea in the United States. I have a rough guess that there may be about 30 trained remote viewers in this country, but I could be at least 10 to 20 out. I have 30 that I know of.
But it's a lot more popular in America than it is here.
It's a lot more popular in America, I think, possibly because more people make use of remote viewers in America than they do in this country. That's why most of the work that I do comes from the United States.
So being a remote viewer is sort of a form of being a psychic. And you don't have to be necessarily a gifted person to be able to do it, do you?
I don't think that you have to be necessarily gifted or psychic in the way that it's normally used. But I think that it is a trained intuitive ability. Each of us has the ability to remote view. I mean, for example, mothers know when their children are in trouble often, and sometimes I gave an example earlier that the phone rings and for some reason you know exactly who it is on the other end. How we explain that, we don't know. But remote viewing as we know it today is a trained ability to be able to tap into this sort of information when we want it.
Is there a dark side to remote viewing that would ever deter you from doing the job?
There are upsetting places to be. Sometimes you don't know until you get there. Usually I have an idea that if a coordinate comes in for me to do a particular task and I start to get into it, if I don't like it, I'll come out and just send the information that I actually got. I have no intention of making myself feel bad. You know, life's great and I enjoy it very much. So I just try and keep it as happy as possible. So basically, if I don't like the look of something, I'll come out of it. But there are possible places to be where you actually don't want to be. And as you know from your own experience, you do get feelings about places, as you did with your own tasking. You get a feeling about a place, and if you're right immersed in that and fairly well practiced, you know that's not a place you want to be. You get out as fast as possible.
Are undocumented immigrants that are the least likely to commit a crime.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that video clip. And so now you know a little bit of the history of remote viewing, and you also know you saw a couple of video clips. One was Ingo Swan, and you just now saw a great video clip on some of the history and how there is things to watch out for in remote viewing. You can get, like something you don't want to remote view that could turn out to give you bad feelings, because you can't take on feelings in remote viewing. You can take on people's feelings. You can take on their what they're going through or at that time. Rather it be maybe you're remote viewing the past. You can take on feelings from the past, or maybe you're taking on feelings from somebody or something, an event in the future, or even just somebody in the here and now. You're taking on their feelings during their session. You can, and then you have to kind of bring yourself out of it. Let yourself tell yourself, that's not me. That's the way I'm feeling their feelings. I'm not feeling my own. And kind of get yourself out of it. But I do teach remote viewing 3 nights a week. I do have a class. I teach basically 5 levels of remote viewing. There's my basic course, the Link remote viewing basic course, LRV. And then there's LRH, Link remote healing. LRI, Link remote influencing, similar to time travel. And then there's LRA, which is Link remote advanced viewing. And then the new course we just started, LTT, Link time travel, or LRTT, Link remote time travel. And in my courses, I don't teach. I teach a completely different way than what most people teach, because I teach people how to tap into their feelings and how to tap into their right side of their brain, and pretty much shut all this off. And I do have a step-by-step process in how I do how we do our work. But I don't make anybody necessarily follow that pattern, because I teach my students how to understand themselves more. So if maybe they're doing their homework assignments that I give them in class, or we give them in class. My assistant, Rachel, who is fantastic, but we give out homework assignments. Maybe during their homework, they get the idea to draw a dog, or draw a house, or they get the idea to write words down that just pop in their mind. I tell them, put it down. Never leave anything off the paper. If you're getting feelings or impressions or ideas about something, put it down, draw it, write it down, color it, take your markers and color it, whatever. Because whenever you get a feeling or something during your work, it's probably a clue as to what the target is. Because in remote viewing, how we teach and how we do our work is, you will have a target number. That number represents a place, person, thing, event, or a date and time, or whatever. That number could represent a deal in the past, or the future, or something in the here and now. But it could be this bottle of soda. That number could indicate this bottle of soda. Because what we do is we take the item, place, person, or thing, whatever we're wanting to do as the homework or whatever, and we put a number with it. Merge those together. We think about that. Put them together. Now they become one. So when you take that number and go through your remote viewing and start writing down what comes to you based on that number, okay, you start getting information. Okay, I'm seeing something around, like a black or brown liquid in there. I'm seeing a weird shaped, like a bottle. Perhaps it's got some red designs on it. Okay, and you're going through your work. By the time you get done with your work, you ought to be pretty well sure that what you just remote viewed is a bottle of soda. You should have it described in your columns of words. You should also have a drawing of it. Now you may not have that drawing may not say Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola or whatever. The drawing may just say cola, or maybe just shows a bottle of soda, but you remote viewed. You just remote viewed without knowing what it was. You just remote viewed it. You can do the same thing with places, people, things. That you can remote view a concert from 1955 with chubby checkers or whatever, or you could go to the future and see and see what's going on this date next year, because once you get that target number and you start going through and doing your work, you start describing, these things and these places, and by the time you get done, you have just remote viewed what that target was. Now, I have taught over 150 classes, and in those classes, I've never had any student that could not become a remote viewer. All of my students have been fantastic at remote viewing. They've succeeded, and after each course, I give them a certificate which tells them, okay, you are now a remote viewer. You took my course. My courses are so those who want to take my courses, what you'll do is you'll send me an email to mufon.chris@yahoo.com. Send me an email, and then me or my assistant will get back with you, and then we will get you signed up. The courses do have a cost. It's very, very cheap. It's probably the cheapest ones around for teaching this stuff. And then what you do is you'll get come to class live and participate and learn and have fun. Then you also get a recording of the class. That recording is yours to keep indefinitely. And then if you need to, and then you also with your payment, you have access to all the back classes, the back catalog of our work. So if you want to see a classic episode of remote viewing that we did in last year, let me give you a good example of one of my classes. Okay, so I gave a homework assignment. Okay, this is neat. I gave a homework assignment of a restaurant in Springfield, Illinois called Charlie Parker's. You can look it up. And in that restaurant is like a Quonset hut, but it's all decorated in 50s style. One of the girls in class remote viewed that restaurant absolutely to a T. She was spot on, word for word. Now, here's another good story. Just recently, I started teaching a new group of students the basics of remote viewing. The very first homework assignment this lady did, she nailed the target on just the first page of her work, without going through the whole session. Just on the first page, she had it all perfect. She was spot on. Now, the reason why people are so successful is because of the way I teach. I teach in such a fun and exciting environment and such a happy way of learning, because I make everything fun. I don't force anybody to do anything except for what they feel is necessary. So when you take my classes, I teach you the step-by-step process every week, a different process, a different step, until you completed the course. But I never force you to do it that way. I allow you to tap into your psychic side and then go with whatever you feel is right. You can do it my way if you want to, and you should at least try it. But if you feel the urge to do something else, then do it your way and see what you get. And I've never had a student fail. Every student has passed my course with flying colors. In fact, during my class, a lot of times I will be the student, because my assistant, Rachel, she will give out target homework, and she gives out the homework assignments, and I will do the homework assignments as well. So I'm also a student in class with everybody else, with all of you. So yeah, if you want to take my courses, just sign up at mufon.chris@yahoo.com. Send me an email. We'll get you set up and let you know all the details you need to know. And we got just about 10 minutes left. So now it is time to let's go. Let's remote view the aliens. And at the very end of class, don't forget, I'm going to show everybody what this is and how you can get one yourself. All right. This is going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to this myself. So, Stanford's most successful remote viewer reveals locations of 4 alien bases on Earth. 4 alien bases on Earth. The facts. Aha. The U.S. had a program called Stargate. It ran for 25 years, where remote viewing was highly successful. Many of the viewers have since been speaking about their ET encounters. One of them identified the location of 4 ET bases here on Earth. reflect on why are so many people from within this program sharing such information? Is remote viewing something military has used quietly for some time? It was extremely successful and credible practice, but why wasn't this part of the declassification? The skill was taught to soldiers in multiple countries around the world, and for what I understand still is. In the United States, the remote viewing program ran for 25 years at Stanford's Research Institute before 70% of it was declassified. It was run in conjunction with the CIA and other intelligence agencies. In 1976, a presentation was given at the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers on a paper published by the Institute on behalf of Hal Puthoff and Russell Torrard, key players in what became known as the Stargate Project. The paper was titled A Perceptual Channel for Information Transfer over a Kilometer Distance, Historical Perspective and Recent Research. After its publication, that's when everything went dark into the world of Special Access Program, SAP, so sensitive that they are exempt from reporting to Congress. After its declassification in 1995, or at least partial declassification of the Department of Defense and those involved revealed an exceptionally high success rate. To summarize, over the years, the back and forth criticism of protocols, refinement of methods, and successful replication of this type of remote viewing in the independent laboratories has yielded considerable scientific evidence for the reality of the remote viewing phenomenon. Adding to the strength of these results was the discovery that a growing number of individuals could be found to demonstrate high-quality remote viewing. Often to their own surprise, the development of this capability at SRI has evolved to the point where visiting CIA personnel with no previous exposure to such concepts has performed well under controlled laboratory conditions. So we're going to move down here a little ways to my notes here, and now there are uncontrollable amounts of stories pertaining to extraterrestrial contact. If even one of those is true, it is fascinating. Many of these stories corroborate with each other and coupled with proof for the extraterrestrial hypothesis regarding UFOs and all of the testimony from people with credibility. It's not ridiculous at all to contemplate. In the bushes of the mountains, while Muda was the apprentice, he was searching for a herb which he planned to use as medicine, something he did quite often to bring health back to his people, specifically with regards to the HIV pandemic in Africa, a disease he says was credited to destroy the African American population. While he was doing so, he was covered by a bright blue mist, which he said was swirling all around me, getting between me and the eastern landscape. Later, he found himself in what he described as underground underneath the mountains. This is interesting because it is exactly what the remote viewer Pat Price described. Now, Pat Price remote viewed alien bases underground, and the next thing he knew, he was lying on a table of some sort. His boots and trousers were missing. He was approached by a group of gray-skinned humanoid creatures with very large head, very thin arms, and very thin legs. A lot of this information also comes from several interviews Muda did with David Icke. Let's see. Price described the occupants of these bases as looking like a Homo sapiens, except for the lungs, heart, and blood and eyes. Muda wanted to flee, but he couldn't move and was paralyzed. I just lay there like a goat on a altar. Muda was then subject to some kind of operation in his left thigh, which caused him to scream out in agony, and abundance of blood flowed from the wound. Next, one of the creatures stuck a silver pen-like object up his right nasal passages. Then he yanked it out. The pain, he says, was out of this world. The pain subsided, however, when one of the creatures who was bigger and taller than the others, who possessed an air of authority, placed its hand on my forehead. Could sense that the creature was female, despite the fact that she lacked breasts and other female characteristics. Staring at Muda initially, it projected visions of destruction into his mind. He saw cities being destroyed by floods, fires, and other natural disasters. He speaks at length of these experiences in his interview with David Icke. I don't have that interview, so if I did, I'd play that for you. He goes on to describe an instrument being inserted into his lower areas, and as soon as it was taken out, his bladder opened up, and the creature came in and had pink skin, blue eyes, high cheekbones, and looked like a human. The creature then mounted like a crazy girl and proceeded to have her way with him. This is another common theme among many supported extraterrestrial contactees. He said during this encounter, a device was used to ejaculate too much. After the ordeal, he was in a tremendous amount of pain. Now, it is important to mention that numerous extraterrestrial encounters have been described, both what as we perceive as friendly and unfriendly contact, as well as unfriendly procedures being performed with strange beings, sometimes confronting the human through the process, and sometimes not. It's strange to say at least, but as far as underground alien bases, it's a possibility. And last, we have a interesting encounter of mine, not me in particular, but the gentleman who wrote this article. He said, I used to teach on a First Nations reserve in a place called North Spirit Lake. I came home for the holidays, and when I arrived at Toronto, I was waiting for the train, and next to me was a gentleman in uniform. Anytime I see what appears to be a senior officer in uniform, I always ask questions. This was one of a veteran, having served overseas in the Middle East for 5 years and was now with the Coast Guard. And instantaneously, I thought of the ocean and underwater military bases. Having studied this in depth, I knew he would most likely be aware of their existence, being with the Coast Guard. This was always 10 years ago, when it was taboo to talk about strange things that no longer seemed taboo anymore. I asked him, and his eyes lit up. Why? He was shocked and surprised and told me he couldn't talk about it. I asked him about in bottom and under ocean military bases. The same thing happened. I asked him about extraterrestrials and what was going on with that. He told me to come work for us and ask then yourself. So that is a little bit of details on the remote viewing aliens. What you're going to see here in just a second, I will get out of this. Shit. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I thought I lost it. But okay, so what you're going to see now is I got a book in the mail, and this book can be purchased on eBay and even on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check this out. This book is called Remote Viewing of the Aliens, and you can buy this on there we go. You can buy this on eBay. It's like $24, and it's got everything you just heard, basically. Everything you just heard, and even more in depth. And this is a fantastic book. It's got details after details. It actually has the entire remote viewing sessions written down as it was on paper, so you can read all about it here in this book. And someday we could even come back here and do maybe a part 2 sometime and go into stories from the book. But this has been a fantastic night, a fantastic night with everybody here. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to read more about what I was going over, send me an email to movefound.chris@yahoo.com, and I can send you all the entire stories of what I was talking about. And also, if you want to take my remote viewing courses, we have our next round of basic remote viewing coming up in November 1st, I think it is. 8-week course of basic remote viewing. That is the stage 1. In that stage 1, you're going to spend 8 to 10 weeks in a class with me and my assistant, Rachel, learning how to remote view and see in your mind's eye. What we do is we get everything on this side, your thinking side, shut down, and we open up this side. And once we get this gap opened up, information starts pouring out. You'll be shocked at how well you do. So that is our basic course starting in November 1st. Right now, we got time travel and healing courses going on. They've already began. It's a little late to be joining those courses. However, I do advise everybody to take the basic course first to get your psychic abilities opened up, get things going. Then you can advance on to the other courses. And the basic course does have a cost. It's relatively cheap. It's like $200, and you get 10 weeks of outstanding weeks in class. Plus, you get all sorts of videos, even including in our Christmas giveaway class, where in Christmas time we have a 2-hour special where we give away gift cards, prizes, T-shirts, DVDs on remote viewing, all kinds of wonderful things. It's a fantastic night. We gave away over $1,000 in prizes last December. We'll probably even top that this year, because right now we got some of the best students you ever seen in remote viewing. We got a woman in class right now who can remote view successfully just instantly. She's great. Her name is, I won't give out names, but she is fantastic. Everybody does fantastic. And so come join our class and send me an email at movefound.chris@yahoo.com. I'll get the information sent to you, how to sign up. And I want to thank everybody for coming here tonight. It is 8:59 p.m. I hope you've enjoyed this special night on remote viewing ETs and remote viewing the history. My name is Chris Harmon, and I want to thank everybody. I thank my assistant, my wonderful friend Rachel for watching, and everybody for watching. This is Chris Harmon signing off, and keep your eyes to the skies.
a YouTube channel near you.